That was a fun stream. I love it when streams go like that. All the vitriol and all the anger and all the frustration. Ooh, that smells good. You really can't wish for much better than that, honestly. 2.5, 3 hours. I don't know how long that stream was, but that was a crystal clear stream. If you're wondering what I'm talking about Paulsego's stream on the Poltergeist that I was just watching and participating in the chat of. Always a fun place to be. Always a fun place to be. Same person who introduced me to this format, honestly. We are streaming so much later than we normally stream, so who the fuck knows if we'll even get a single viewer this time, because it is just so fucking late to start one of these. But you know what? We are going to try regardless. We are going to pour our little hearts out. We are going to do our best to get an interesting conversation going for at least a little while, and we are going to have fun with it. God damn it. Sup, Big Gabe. Bigger Gabe. Smoke weed every Gabe. These gas station joints taste like shit sometimes, you know? Sometimes they legitimately taste like chemicals. Like, people will say, like, oh, this tastes like chemicals. And I always balk at that, right? Because everything is made of chemicals at the end of the day. Everything's a fucking chemical. But I get what they mean now when I taste these gas station joints. And what they mean is, like, this tastes like cleaning fluid. They don't mean this tastes like chemicals. I mean, this tastes like dish chemicals. Or laundry chemicals. Whatever. Whatever. We've got some shit to talk about today, though. Boy, do we ever. I guess most of it we probably covered earlier in the day, tangentially, but whatever. I'm a queen of repeating myself endlessly, so I might as well do it again, right? But I'm going to wait for a few people to get in here before I announce the coming debate, which is the first thing I want to talk about. But like I said, I want to wait for some people to get in here. Make sure you guys hit that like button as you come in, because that will help send this out to even more people in the algorithm. It is really genuinely a great way to help out the channel without doing much. There you go. I see one already. Nice, nice. Man, it would be a really wonderful thing if Wendell would show up over here. Because I seriously doubt Wendell is banned. But I'll tell you this much. If Wendell comes in here, that could be pretty fun and pretty explosive. But we'll see. You never know. You never know who will happen in chat. I guess there's a slight chance that Wendell has come in before and gotten himself banned, but seems unlikely. It's pretty hard for a lefty to get themselves banned around here, honestly. What's good? Not much, not much. Actually, everything's good. I don't know what I'm talking about. Everything's wonderful. Yeah. Got some really cool stuff coming up this Saturday for you guys, and got some other cool announcements that I'll make pretty soon. Well, that's the main announcement, but I don't know. I'm waiting for some people to trickle in before we get into all of it, okay? Okay? You guys have to... Ooh, so... There we go. We're also going to be talking about the fact that a socialist was just elected in New York City, and the sort of change that could represent. And we'll probably end up talking about the Iran-Israel conflict yet again, because that just keeps on being relevant news. So that's kind of what's on the docket. But as usual, any other questions you want to ask are great too. That was quite the show. Yes, it was, femboy. Yes, it truly fucking was. Yes, it was quite the show. Thoughts on the Republic era? What era is that? I feel like that's an era I probably know under a different name. If you're talking about like an era in American history or an era in American politics, it's probably something I've known by a different name. What you think with the whole Iran-Israel thing? Oh, okay, you can wait. Well, I don't mind getting into the whole Iran-Israel thing real quick. I think that we don't need to be over there. I think that the intelligence community was right when they were saying a month ago that Iran was nowhere near having nuclear fucking weaponry capabilities. I think that there's no reason to believe that Tulsi Gabbard started touting the president's line outside of Trump called her and said, if you don't start touting my line, I will have you removed from office and I will put in someone who will tout my line. And so now she's going along with it. But riddle me this. How the fuck did they go from not having the capacity to build nuclear weapons to having the capacity to build nuclear weapons in 2 fucking weeks? That's not possible. You don't go from being years and years away to being months away in a matter of weeks. That's the whole idea of the previous assessment that they were years away. So I think that it's a falsely justified conflict, that Trump is only claiming a ceasefire has happened now. I think he's only claiming a ceasefire has happened because he desperately wants a ceasefire to happen, because he doesn't want to be perceived by the MAGAs, basically. He doesn't want to be perceived by his base as being a pro-war president, because that's one of the things that conservatives have kind of been able to get liberals on for the last, 10 years or so, is Trump didn't start any new wars. Trump actually got us out of Afghanistan. So, Trump was seen up until now as like an anti-war kind of president, and now they can't really say that anymore. And so Trump is fucking furious at these two countries, but what Trump doesn't understand is that Benjamin Netanyahu owns American politics. Donald Trump does not own American politics. So if Israel's line is contrary to the line of the president, Israel's line is what will be done as policy, unless Trump decides to go completely against it. He's going to have to grow a massive fucking set of balls that I don't think he's ever demonstrated in order to actually be able to go against it. He's going to have to go directly against Israel, and Israel's a crazy enough fucking country that if we tried to turn on them, if we tried to even just to say, you know what, we're not supporting you anymore. As long as you continue these forever wars, as long as you continue being a force for destruction in the Middle East, we're not going to fund your dumb ass. Israel, they genuinely might start attacking America. Who the fuck knows? Who the fuck knows how deep that sort of entitlement over the control of American politics goes when it comes to the Israeli state. So I think it's conflict with no easy answers, but one thing I do know, we don't need to be helping Israel bomb Iran at the very least. If Israel wants to bomb Iran and we genuinely can't get out of supporting them at this point, then that's fucking awful enough without our fucking bombs going to add to the total. And even MAGA was agreeing with me just a couple weeks ago when it came to this war and it going on for 12 fucking days. There were a bunch of people on the right who were saying, you know what, this isn't how Trump is supposed to be. This is not what we were promised, and this goes against something we've been talking. It's just, they brought up the thing that, I got that talking point not from the left but from the right. The idea that Trump is actually alienating some of his base is not an idea I picked up in leftist spaces. It's an idea that I picked up arguing with MAGAs during that time. What did you mean by moderate like TJ? Oh, okay. Femboy Stormtrooper. Have you ever seen the debate that Jamie Darkey did with TJ and Paul? Well, Jamie Darkey and Paul were the parties to the debate, and TJ was the kind of offhand, hands-off moderator, I guess you would say. If you've never seen that debate, then it can be kind of hard to illustrate what I mean. But basically, when Frey moderates a debate, they don't use a very strong, hands-on kind of "I'm going to police this rigidly" format. I'm sure they could if they had to, because they've demonstrated some pretty rigid adherence to format in the past on some of the DFF episodes. But it's not their tendency to do so in the pursuit of an internet conversation. And that's basically what Paul is looking for me out of this conversation. And I'm pretty sure that Alchemist Oil is going to be okay with that as well. Just to make sure that nobody's tensions get so high that the conversation becomes lost in the sauce. No, I'll look it up later. Oh, you got to, dude. That is one of the best fucking... that is one of the honestly, I think it's one of the best appearances that Paul has ever made in terms of his like rhetorical ability and his ability to get under somebody's skin. It really doesn't get much better than that debate. Okay, so speaking of debates, I don't know how many people are regulars on my channel that are here right now, but there is going to be a debate this Saturday at 10 p.m. hosted on this channel. No, it won't be 10 p.m. my time. I better correct the record. It'll be 10 p.m. PST, 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which for me will be like, I genuinely don't know, now that I think about it. They are, yeah, okay, so it'll be like 12 a.m. for me, or no, it'll be like 2 a.m. for me, or something like that. It'll be pretty goddamn late at night, I know that much. But, you know, I'm just going to be a moderator. I won't have to be talking much, so it's something that'll be workable with the setup that I have and everything. So that'll be cool. Anyway, yeah, it'll be like 10 p.m. PST, and I think that, like I said, translates to like 11. Can someone help me? Can someone that isn't retarded go look it up and tell me exactly what 10 p.m. PST is in CST, please? It was a classic debate. The build-up was great, too. Wow, great announcement. Super descriptive. No, I'm just fucking high, okay? You gotta be patient with me, okay? Because I have to relate everything in terms to my fucking time, or I'm gonna get all fucking confused. I want to squash this in the bud before it becomes an issue, okay? You gotta understand where I'm coming from. What zone are you in again? CST. So I'm looking for a translation of 10 p.m. PST to CST. And I'm thinking that maybe I was right when I first said 12 a.m., right? Because you got CST and then Mountain Time and then Pacific Time, right? Is that correct? Very confused. I'm sorry. You won't be in a minute, I promise. I swear to God, you won't be in a minute. Yeah, midnight. What the fuck is that bruise on your arm? I have no fucking clue. I literally do not know where I got this. Your guess is as good as mine, fam. I don't know. Just happened. Fucking woke up one day with a big old bruise on my arm. I don't know. It probably happened the day before or something, and I just didn't notice. But yeah, it doesn't hurt really. I mean, I guess it does if I touch it, but you know, it's not like passively painful. Anyway, so yes, there will be a debate at 10 p.m. PST, 12 a.m. CST on this channel on Saturday. This coming up Saturday between Alchemist Soil, who is somebody from the Deep Fat Fried Hater subs that has been making a shit ton of videos about, well, about Paul and also about a few other political figures with whom he has disagreements, and Paulsego, who is the aforementioned Paul and has a channel at the Poltergeist and at Paulsego. 2 channels, actually, one of them being far older than the other. Currently streams on at the Poltergeist. And yeah, Paul is one of the 3 hosts of Deep Fat Fried and their main show, Onion Nuggets, and I think that covers all the details, yeah. I think that covers all the details. I'm trying to think if there's anything really I need to add to that. I mean, I would love to say that there's going to be specific topics that they're going to cover, but the best I can tell you is that it'll be a pretty rowdy political debate. It's going to be a pretty rowdy political debate between somebody who is kind of more like a post-leftist, kind of anti-electoralist on the side of Paulsego, right? And then somebody who's way more of a conventional vote blue no matter who kind of liberal on the side of Alchemist Soil. So, if that sounds interesting to you, then make sure you bookmark your calendar or whatever timekeeping software you use and hit us up for 10 p.m. PST, 12 a.m. CST. Saturday. The something. But this coming up Saturday. This is why us ESTers are superior. No need to be jealous. We completely understand your envy. Oh, I'm envy of EST because you guys have fucking Massachusetts, and I miss that state. Boy, do I miss Massachusetts. But whatever. Is what it is. I own land in Mississippi, not in Massachusetts. And, you know, them's the breaks. What is that? You're going to have to be more specific than that, my friend. What's up, Ignar? Dude, Ignar, have you been listening? Have you heard the news? There's going to be a debate between well-known subreddit troll Alchemist Soil and Paulsego, everybody's favorite crazy post-left fucking pseudo-anarchist kind of crazy hippie in the woods, Paulsego, right? Debate between these two, and I have not set out any specific topics, and Paul didn't outline any either, so I'm assuming that it's probably going to start somewhere with, like, I really don't know where to predict that it's going to start. You know what? I really don't know. Knowing Alchemist Soil, he'll probably try to start it off in a political direction, but which way Paul takes it, I think, is entirely dependent on how his mood is when he gets there, you know? Because Paul strikes me as a mood-dependent performer. I don't know if he would agree with that, but he strikes me as a mood-dependent performer that would, like, in a position where he's got the ability to ad-lib, basically, in the position where it's a free-flowing kind of conversational performance, he seems like the kind of person who would go with the flow off of some kind of, like, internal, I don't know, like I said, a mood-based basis. Whatever. I sound like George Bush, but you get what I'm trying to say, okay? So I think it's apt to be unpredictable. This generation is cooked. Oh, man. We're not cooked, okay? We're baked. Hold on, let me turn on the monkey button, because literally nobody can use the chat right now because it's just all, like, the worst, most insipid morons you've ever encountered online. Well, it's not all that, honestly. I would say like 25% of you are being good, but the 75% of you that are being morons got to go. You can keep watching. In fact, I really want you to. But if you're going to engage in the chat, number one, you're going to have to subscribe and wait approximately a minute. Number two, you're going to have to get used to the idea of having to wait 15 seconds in between texts. And number three, you have to be readable, original, and interesting. So really, I guess there's more like 7 requirements. No, the math doesn't add up. See, it depends on whether you consider the requirement to be those things a requirement in itself, or if you consider that requirement to be merely a part of a broader set of obligations. This is something I'm going to have to think quite a bit about. Anyway, point is, be readable, original, and interesting, and you will stay around here for a long time, and you will have a happier time because the chat will be more readable, and I won't be getting pissed at you for being dumb, you know? Not that I don't see the value in discourse, but I don't understand why Paul wants to do this. 99% chance this dude will end up bringing the points he refuted. He's refuted 10,000 goddamn times. No, I know, Rose. And I think Paul knows that too. I think really, and that's why I said I can't predict what's going to happen. Because I think if Paul allows Alchemist Soil to keep it in a purely political place, that it just ends up being a rehash of the same points. But Paul doesn't strike me as the kind of person who would even enjoy doing that. So I think that if this debate is to last longer than 20 minutes, it's going to have to end up getting kind of contentious. I don't know. Maybe there are different ways it can go. In fact, I'm sure there are, right? There are always a million different ways that the mind cannot predict. But I see it getting kind of contentious because I don't see, you know, Paul has talked a lot about how he's been getting kind of bored with politics and shit. And I really don't know that there's still enough meat left on that bone to really make it interesting if it stays purely political. So that's why I wonder about, like, maybe some of the specific motivations behind these posts will be brought up. Maybe if some, like, deeper implications of some of these political beliefs won't be brought up. That's why I don't want to say which way it's going to go, because to Alchemist Soil's credit, he's pretty confident in terms of, like, public speaking, I guess, insofar as we do it on here, you know. He's able to hold a conversation and to make his points with a little bit of passion, which is more than I can say about a lot of people, right? And that's what makes me kind of, I don't know, giddy about this conversation is because it's like, you know, I don't disagree with Paul enough to argue with him. I probably disagree with Paul on a total of like 3 or 4 policy points. That is not nearly enough. And they are not broad sweeping policy points. It's shit like, you know, should we gene edit Down syndrome out of the human population if we were given the ability to? You know, should we gene edit autism out of the human population if we were given the ability to? Not in current people, but like in concurring generations, you know? And that's one of those like weird kind of super out there off the wall positions that's like completely, it's almost pointless to talk about because it's never going to happen, right? It's never going to fucking happen. The likelihood that we even figure out how to do it is pretty small. And the likelihood that people would allow it to happen if it did is none. Like, people would never stand for that. For one reason or another, good, bad, right, or wrong, people wouldn't stand for it. And so it's just kind of like a philosophical conversation. Like, are human beings better without these things? My argument is no. As hard as some of them are to deal with, I think that certain varieties of these illnesses probably should be done away with, and others, and like more mild. Like, that's why I think the treatment is a way better option than prevention when it comes to the idea of mental illness. But once again, we're talking about such an obscure position in a Rolodex of otherwise completely based takes. And then another position that I disagree with Paul on is something that a lot of lefties disagree with me on, which is hydropower. I'm of the opinion that America needs a whole lot more hydropower. I was in the Northeast and I saw all kinds of fucking creeks, and all I could think is like, man, all of these creeks used to power mills. They could power electrical generators. Even if you just took a few locations on the stream and put a few low impact generation sites, and then a fish ladder so that fish can get up and down it, because there are migratory fish in these creeks, right? You could generate power with so many of these little creeks and streams flowing throughout the Northeast, through the South, through the Midwest, for that matter. Yeah, it's not a great option for the West Coast, but it's a great option for the fucking South, Southeast, and the Northeast, so why wouldn't we fucking advocate for it? But that's something a lot of the left disagrees with me on, you know? And so, I don't know. I can't find enough to argue with Paulsego about, honestly. I don't think it would be that interesting for us to set that kind of thing up, but to see him go up against somebody that he has profound disagreements with on the matter of electoralism, the matter of electoral efficacy, I should say, that's going to be really interesting, right? Because it's been a while since Paul went up against somebody like that. It really has been a fucking while. It's pretty much been since Jamie. It's pretty much been since Jamie Darkey's appearance on Into the Phrase channel. It's been pretty much since then that, or no, I think it was on TJ Does Life. Anyway, point is, it's been since then that Paul has went head to head with a direct political rival. Well, no, I guess Destiny would count there. Yeah, I fucking forget about the Destiny appearances though, because I didn't watch them, because I find Destiny insufferable. I really enjoy Paul, obviously, you know, avowed Paul simp, but no, I'm kidding. But you know what I mean. I appreciate Paul's content, but not to the point that I can get over how fucking insipid I find Destiny. It just is how it is. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Some things will never change. You know? So I haven't watched that appearance, and so I forget about them. But outside of the Destiny appearance, and maybe I guess you could count Vosh, outside of the Destiny appearance, I really don't feel like Paul has gone up against anybody recently. And even those have been more than a year. You know? It's been like almost 2 years when it comes to both of those appearances. So I think it's going to be really fucking fun to watch this happen again. Sub due to the flag. Hey, that's cool. But yeah, I think we've talked about the debate announcement. I'll say it one last time just so everybody knows. If you're a fan of this channel and you want to see more political debate and you want to see something a little more structured, then tune in this Saturday at 10 p.m. PST. Figure out your own time zone from there, because I had to do it and it was a lot of math. And it'll be featuring Alchemist Soil, somebody from Hater subreddit, from the other person in the debate, Paulsego. So there's So Paulsego is a host of a podcast. There's a bunch of hater subs dedicated to this podcast, and one specifically dedicated to him. Alchemist Oil is a poster on these and a regular critic of said Paulsego. These two will be going at it for our fun and pleasure at 10 p.m. CST on... No, not 10 p.m. CST. I'm a fucking idiot. Listen to me the second time. 10 p.m. PST. Okay? PST Saturday. This Saturday. Come and see it. You won't be sorry. What is this mental illness? I can't believe you subbed for a whole minute just to come in here and accuse me of being mentally ill for being trans. That is an absurd level of obsession. That is a level of dedication to the act of being a shit stirrer to which I can only applaud you for. What exactly would there... Why exactly would there be pushback against hydroelectric? Because in certain environments, it really is a bad idea. Because, like, in certain places, like, anywhere there are salmon spawns, you have to figure out an engineering solution for hydroelectric. And it always has, like, an impact on the local environment. Usually the impact is creating a lot more aquatic habitat and a lot less terrestrial habitat. Well, not a lot less, actually. A lot more aquatic habitat and a little less terrestrial habitat. That's what I was trying to say. Because when it comes to inland waterways, there's way more land than there is water. There's way more land than there is water, and so if you put up a dam, in a lot of places you are actually increasing the amount of aquatic habitat at a pretty minimal expense to the overall like wildlife habitat around it. But as part of that, you do have to do some protection, right? You have to protect some of these environments to make sure that the river remains a healthy river. There have been places where this kind of management technique, I think, genuinely has worked, and I say that because the catches there are still good. And I assume fish would have been dying off if it hadn't been managed correctly, considering the dam's been there since the 60s, you know? And a lot of the dams have been there since the 50s and 60s. So it's like, they got to be doing something right. There is a correct way to manage hydropower in this country, and it involves not building dams in places where a shit ton of migratory fish are, and where seasonal rainfall is a really kind of iffy thing, you know? Like, the reason why I think like hydroelectric dams are probably not a great option for the Southwest is because there's just not a whole lot of water there. And so anytime you're holding up water, you are like, you're fucking up the environment in a way that you aren't when you take a place with shit tons of water already and then you dam up some of it, right? Opinion on the homeless epidemic, I think it's mostly a matter of America. I think it's mostly a matter of America not wanting to give anything away for free. We have this obsession with the idea of entitlements and the idea of welfare being bad words. We have this idea in this country that anything you do for the upkeep of your common human being, of your common man, as they say, anything you do in furtherance of that is just communist socialism, and you have to avoid it. There's no way we can engage in anything like that. And so these southern states, a lot of them, have enacted incredibly hostile policies towards homeless people, mostly with the intention of driving them out of the state. And they're pretty fucking successful. Because if you talk to a bum in Skid Row, you stand about like a 25% chance, any given bum, meeting somebody from the Deep South. And that is true anywhere else you can find bums, by the way. People that are fucking homeless in the South, outside of the big cities, pretty much have to find their way to either one of the big cities, or they have to find their way to the Northeast, out West, to somewhere in the Midwest. Because the policies are so fucking anti-human, basically, down here. I really do think it's a matter of policy. We could house these people. We could develop rehabilitation programs that aren't just tailored towards people who've been on drugs. We could develop rehabilitation programs that are meant to take someone who's been living on the streets and teach them how to be a good neighbor, a good citizen, a good a good employee. As much as I hate the employee-employer relationship, as much as I hate the current system of capitalism and shit, I do think that people need to know how to do that shit if they're going to get by in everyday life. As long as we have a capitalist system, it's important to know how to work within it, right? So teaching people how to be basically good citizens again, because after you become homeless, there comes a time when you eventually are just not socialized anymore, not like a regular person who had a regular childhood and a regular adult life. There comes a time when the only people that you relate to are other crazy bums. There comes a time when you relate more to stray cats and stray dogs than you do to other people. There comes a time when you start looking for the deep philosophical meaning in the gray-green sludge spattered all over the pavement at your spange spot, you know? There comes a point where you just go fucking crazy because you've been living on the street for so long. It's almost like going feral is the only way I can kind of describe it, honestly. And after a person has gone feral, you have to rehabilitate that person. You have to teach them. You have to, at the very least, you have to give them the opportunity to learn how to be all the things I just mentioned, how to be a good neighbor, how to how to get and keep a job, how to spend money and save money. These sorts of life skills are things that people forget once they replace all of them with survival techniques for getting by on the day-to-day. When you have nothing to sleep on but maybe a fucking old sleeping bag. Maybe if you're lucky, you've got the back seat of a vehicle. You learn a completely different fucking lifestyle when you live like that. And if you live like that for a number of years, there needs to be institutions in this country. And we have the fucking housing to do it, too. We have the housing to build places that would do this. Another thing we would have to do is increase public transit in this country. I mean, if you can't, if you don't even have a car, if you're truly on the street, right, then it doesn't matter if there's some kind institution that's willing to house you and feed you and teach you all these life skills. It doesn't matter if that exists if you don't have any way to get to the job that they're teaching you how to get, right? And so you've got to have widespread public transportation. So that's something that would have to be worked into this. The truth of it is, y'all, there are a shit ton of problems in America that can be reduced down to a few basic policies that would really go a long way towards fixing a bunch of other fucking things in this country. Public transit is a massive fucking need in this country, and that is going to, honestly, I guess it doesn't require it, but it would really be helped along quite a bit by infrastructure renewal. So we've already got 2 policies. Can we come up with a few more for a potential third party that might wipe out both major parties and come to a sweeping win in 2028 on a fucking sea of actual change? Infrastructure renewal, public transportation, housing reform, universal health care. Now we're talking. Are you MAGA? No, but I'm not nearly as unfriendly to MAGA as some liberals, lefties kind of are, I don't know. I'm a super far lefty, but I like to think that the only way that you ever talk somebody out of their positions, and not that that's necessarily my intention, but I think that if you're ever going to make any progress on coming to some kind of better solution for how to govern the country, you don't do that by just listening to one segment of the population, you kind of have to engage with conversation between, you have to reach across the aisle sometimes, at the very least, to argue with people and figure out where they stand and show them that maybe they have an ally in one area or another that they didn't know about. You need more HRT, LOL? Yeah, I know. Bro is just yapping. Yapping to 289 people is pretty impactful yapping. You need to stop hitting that vape and start hitting some weights. I find it interesting that people assume merely because someone is fat that doesn't mean that automatically means they're not strong, or that they aren't capable of lifting weights. Because like you can lift a bunch of weight and still be fat. I've seen plenty of fucking fat dudes lifting crazy weights. Now, I clearly don't regularly lift weights because my fucking arms aren't all fucking bulked out like that, nor would I want them to be. But I've seen plenty of fucking. I've seen plenty of. I have seen it honestly more in dudes. I've never seen like a chubby lady that is lifting weights, but I also usually don't see women with like lifting weights in general. I'm sure it's something that happens. Like I'm sure there is like a women's weightlifting kind of thing, but it's not something that I've personally encountered, you know? Like my high school didn't have a women's weightlifting team, you know? I think before anyone ever makes a political choice, they should look at history for guidance. Like whenever a socialist gets into power, the economy usually takes a nosedive and millions of people die. And whenever a socialist comes to power, for some reason, the United States and usually Great Britain come to depose their democratically elected leader and install their own. And that's when the economy crashes. Or another common tactic is use tariffs and sanctions to destabilize a socialist economy, and once the economy is sufficiently destabilized, fund a rebel movement. Have you ever heard of the Iran-Contra affair? Have you ever heard of the Iran-Contra affair? What's up, Book Blaze? What are your pronouns? She, her, hers. No third party would sweep the other two out as it's going. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. While we've lost a lot of political tradition, I still believe the tradition will stand all the way down. I'm sorry, I just disagree with you. There are enough people on the left that are sick to death of the Democrats and look at them as the lesser of two evils, but evil nonetheless. And there are enough people on the right that look at them in a similar manner. There are enough of us, trust me. There are enough people on the right, too, to join us. There are plenty of people who voted Trump in 2024 that voted Biden in 2020. There are plenty of people who voted Trump in 2024 that still kind of look at him as like a begrudging candidate. Like they'll defend him in public, but when it comes to their private conversations, they're like, you know, I think he's kind of a buffoon and he wouldn't really be my first choice, you know, but that's what the party chose, so, you know, and so it's like they have the same kind of feeling in their minds. Maybe it's not all of them. It doesn't need to be. All it needs to be, you know what we need to do? 35% of eligible voters didn't vote last year. That's 35% of people we could engage. That's 35% of people that we could fucking engage. Let's say we just engaged 30% of them. Let's say we managed to engage 30% of those people and got them to go to the polls, got them to give a shit again. Let's say we could engage 30% of those people. Hell, let's say we could engage 15% of them. At that point, we only need to fucking gouge like 10% from each of the parties, and there, we've got our majority. Literally, like, well, no, I guess we would be gouging way more than 10% of their total base. We would just need to gouge the like 10% of eligible voters, right? We would need to gouge a random 10% of eligible voters who voted Democrat and a random 10% of Republicans, right, who voted Democrat. And as like that's all we would need.
Leftists, we constantly get ignored by liberals by being insignificant, but somehow there's still enough of us to be blamed when they lose in spectacular fashion. Wait, what's going on? Leftists, we constantly get ignored by liberals for being insignificant, but somehow there's still enough of us to be blamed when they lose in spectacular fashion.
Oh, yeah, no. That's 100% a fucking thing that happens. The left gets blamed for every fucking political loss of the Democrats, when the fact of it is, we are just fucking voting on principle. It is not the left's duty to vote in a fucking specific politician. It is a politician's duty to win the vote of the people. If they don't win the vote of the people, I don't think it's right for someone to shame you for how you voted. What is your ideal political party? Something that mostly caters to economic issues. Economic justice needs to be our front. That will unite people. That will unite people. We can worry about the social issues later. I hate to say that as a trans lady, and I get why that sounds weird, but hear me the fuck out. People are so fucking divided because all the rhetoric they hear, the only arguments they're allowed to have is about whether I'm allowed to go to the bathroom that I identify with the gender of, right? And that's absurd. That's a fucking non-argument. That's an argument that specifically caters to the bourgeoisie's fucking ideal life. Just permanently fucking over the working class and having them arguing against each other more than they argue against anybody else. Having them argue against each other instead of arguing for their right to be fucking angry at this fucked up system that grinds people into dust. So I think that the correct front for a new third party would be something economic. That's why I was postulating policies earlier, right? That's why I was saying infrastructure renewal. What was I saying? Infrastructure renewal, public transportation, housing reform, universal health care, and I'm trying to figure out. I hesitate to just say tax the rich as a policy because it's been so deeply associated with leftists at this point, which is fine, like, to me, but, you know, if we're going to try and bring over, like, 30% of the Republican Party or whatever, 30% of people who voted for Trump, if we're going to try and bring over a decently sized minority of that party, then we're going to have to not ally ourselves necessarily with slogans that have been deeply associated with leftist movements, right? But I do think that we should make the rich pay their fair share. I do think it's fucked up that corporations pay almost nothing in taxes, and most other people do too. I think it is fucked up that you are allowed, that if you're a working person in this country and you're like building something in a factory or hell, even if you're doing what I do on YouTube, you have to pay taxes. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a regular ass person, your ass is responsible for that shit. You are going to pay them. It's going to happen one way or the other. But if you're a corporation, you're just allowed to get out of it, even though you're the one that's fucking crushing up all the roads with your fucking constant truck traffic, even though you're the ones that are polluting the fucking air with your manufacturing. They should be responsible for more of the public because they are responsible for more of the reason for there to be like a strong framework for the upkeep of the common good. Like, they are the ones damaging the fucking planet. They ought to goddamn well be the ones paying for its cleanup. I'm not even saying they need to stop. What I'm saying is that they need to contribute equally to the society that they fuck over all day long so that we can make up for the deficits in their misbehavior.
I look at it like this. Granted, I'm not queer, so I'm aware that I'm not the most qualified to speak on this. Nonetheless, if the majority of people are well off, they aren't going to care about who is identifying as what sexuality. Yeah, it might annoy some people on principle, but most are going to be like, fuck it, I already got my stuff.
That's another thing, yeah. I 100% agree with what Rose is saying. If you make these economic arguments and we succeed on them, trans people will be way better off by virtue of having access to universal health care. Even if it doesn't include gendered care at first. Even if it doesn't. But I don't see any reason why it would. Because, like, say what you will about MAGA, but I've argued with enough MAGA people to know that a lot of them don't really care about adult trans people. Now, some of them do, but I think it's a minority of people on the right that actually give a shit at this point about grown trans people. Most of them aren't looking to ban fucking hormone replacement therapy outright. That's why when a Republican comes out and says that, it's news, right? Because it's not like common parlance among the party that nobody should ever be allowed to transition. That remains a pretty minority opinion. Now, it might be a growing minority, but it's still a minority as of right now. And see no reason why a universal healthcare system that was brought about by a coalition of independent voters, disgruntled right-wing voters, disgruntled left-wing voters, I don't see why a universal healthcare brought about by that coalition wouldn't include adult, at the very least, trans healthcare for adults, right? And so there, right off the bat, you're automatically better off, even though you haven't done effectively anything when in regards to the trans issue as far as rhetoric, that hasn't been the front face of the party. You haven't done anything about it in terms of policy directly, but you have helped trans people by eliminating a fundamental source of our discomfort in our everyday life. And if you introduce housing reform, public transportation, and infrastructure renewal, you also help trans people by eliminating some of the most common routes for trans people's lives to get the most fucked up, which is homelessness. So many trans people get kicked out of their fucking housing situation when they come out, and oftentimes we do end up eventually getting on our feet, but there are trans people every year that die because they fucking got kicked out of their housing when they came out as trans, had nowhere else to go, became homeless, lived on the streets until the winter came, and didn't bundle up enough one night and just died. Like, no fanfare, no funeral, just died. Buried in a pauper cemetery somewhere in the county.
Also, while we're at it, why is dental insurance separate from health insurance? Weird teeth poking bastards.
Because the way my dad puts it is because in America you ain't got teeth and you ain't got ears. Or no, you ain't got teeth and you ain't got eyes. You ain't got teeth and you ain't got eyes in America. That's why. I don't know. It is that way because it's that way, basically. It's that way because we allow it to be that way, femboys. And that's why. Wait. I thought that was Femboy Stormtrooper that said that. I'm sorry, that was Rose. The British Supreme Court have ruled that there are only two sexes and only two genders. Well, whoop-de-doo-dah-day. Good for them. I don't ask the British Supreme Court what my American ass should think about anything. We separated from that god-forsaken yellow-toothed island about 250 years ago. I don't know if you heard, but our giant-ass army just had its fucking centennial and a half. 250 years going strong. Don't fuck with us. I can't believe a Brit is coming in here to judge me. Bitch, get the fuck out of here. You eat beans on toast as a snack. You're ridiculous. The concept of you even approaching me as if you're better than me is laughable in the face of it. See you later. So anyway, we want to talk about the socialist that got elected mayor in New York City. I'm pretty happy about it. It was 250? That's what I said. I guess it would have been bicentennial and a half, right? Bicentennial and a half. Whatever. I'm still American. I hope you know I'm joking, by the way. And please, the French fought that for you. Minor detail. Minor detail, my friend. Minor detail.
Are you claiming that the American Revolution was a proxy war between Britain and France? Come now. I don't know much about it, so bring me up to speed. Much about what? I've never been mistaken for a femboy before. I don't know how to feel about it. I'm sorry. I mistook you for femboy stormtrooper. Another chatter. What do you think about the New York going to be worse off than...
No, I think they're going to be way better off. One of the things that this mayor is talking about doing is starting a chain of city-owned grocery stores that don't have to worry about a profit margin. They don't have to worry about paying property taxes or a mortgage either. They don't have to worry about paying rent. All they have to worry about is providing products and making up for the cost of those products. And we all know that markup is the most fucking expensive thing. So we're talking about a complete revolution that's about to happen in New York. If this really goes through and they start doing this, people are going to be able to cook at home that haven't been able to cook at home in a long fucking time. Because New York City, from my understanding, is kind of like a fucking, like some European cities and some like Asian cities. From what I understand, now somebody from NYC can correct me on this, but from what I understand, there's enough cheap like street food and fucking restaurant food and that type of thing. There's enough cheap like ready-made food, I don't know how you'd put it, that some people just don't really cook at home that often. And this might really change that, you know? And who knows, like if this is open to the, like if there's some variety or permutation of this that is open to like the street vendors of New York, this could also see a resurgence in that kind of thing. I think that this is a wonderful thing for New York City. And I think that New Yorkers ultimately are going to be the ones who decide whether or not this is a good thing for their city.
Whatever the opposite of a nightmare blunt rotation is, whatever this is. Ideal blunt rotation, yes, and it really is. Thank you for caring about what's good for people. You seem like a good-hearted and caring person. Jesus loves you. He died for your sins. Well, I don't know about that, but I appreciate your support. Goddamn, it's about damn time for exposure to processes like this in the U.S. Well, yeah. It was, in all honesty. Britain was fighting on 4 continents against France and Spain. The longest battle of the American Revolution was fought in Europe, the Siege of Gibraltar.
Yeah. It is kind of weird how if you start learning about American history, right, people will talk about proxy wars if it's something America invented right around the 50s, when in fact America was invented in a proxy war, right? Like the French were fighting the British. They'd been fighting the British for a really long time, and the American Revolution was really just another chapter in that. Now, I do think that the Americans gaining independence and France not deciding to rule over us like some kind of like secondary, like basically France giving us our true independence, I do think that that is what allowed us to eventually defeat the British a second time in the Battle of 1812 and to start forging positive relationships with Britain and France, which started allowing them to forge positive relationships. So, you know, it is interesting how things played out after that. But, you know, it's a 100% objective fact that France armed the American revolutionaries against Britain, and France supplied troops and ships. So, like, you don't get much more proxy war than that. And like that person said, the longest battle of the American Revolution wasn't even in America. It was in Europe. It was the Siege of Gibraltar. See, Brit, we can get along. Besides, I can't talk too much shit on you guys. I'm from the South, bro. Our obsession with sweet tea comes from you motherfuckers.
I enjoy listening to you. You seem like a very wise person. Don't let people get you down.
Hey, I try not to. I really do. I will tell you this much. Hate-filled commenting and that kind of thing rolls off my back like water off a duck.
I feel bad for how we've treated the French. They're all right. We're sorry about all the snail jokes. We may not get it, but it's your thing.
Dude, Yeah, I looked it up one day, and the result can literally, it was like being hit by a grenade or something. It was like being hit by Bruce Lee's 6-inch punch or something like that. It was wild. Okay, so if you Google, what is the most successful military power in history, you will find, well, I just want you guys to guess. Don't even Google it. I want you guys to guess. Who is the successful military power in history?
The tea tax was placed on high-quality tea shipped in from India, which was pretty cheap. The smuggled stuff was more expensive than the cheap British tea and was worse quality.
Is that true? Man, the internal politics of the Boston Tea Party are not something that are usually explained to American kids. It was a 2-inch punch. I know. I just fucked it up. I was actually only going to stick around for a bit, but I'm actually enjoying your input. Well, thanks. I'm glad. What is your political ideation? I don't know. Crazy leftist hippie? Something like that? I don't know. Post-leftist. Anarchist leaning in the long term. Maybe more of like a fucking third party kind of socialist person in the short term. I don't know. Rather than just like rattle off a bunch of titles, I think it's way easier for us to just have a political conversation and just like ask me how I feel about a few specific issues, right? I think that would be way productive than me trying to describe it all through some sort of complex series of labels. What is your political ideation? Japanese. Yep. Isn't Britain's navy the strongest in history, or am I mistaken? Britain's navy used to be the strongest in history. Now the United States Navy is definitely the strongest navy. When did you get into politics? I got into politics when I was around 14 years old. I didn't really start deep diving it until I was 16 or 17. And by the time I was 20, man, I was hooked.
Phoebe, I've talked with Ignar about this. If they banned sweet tea, it would unite all political stripes across the United States and cause a rebellion the likes of which this country has never seen.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah, it would. Well, not if you banned sweet tea. If you banned tea in general, maybe, rosé. Because you have to understand, like, I've been all over this fucking country. I've been as far west as Pismo Beach, California, and as far east as Salisbury Beach, Massachusetts, as far north as the White Mountains of New Hampshire, and as far south as Pensacola, Florida. That is a wide fucking swath of this country. That's basically the entire lower 48. And I gotta tell you, sweet tea is a very specific fucking thing that you can pretty much only get in the Southwest, in places. Certain places in the Southwest have it, and the Southeast. You can get it all over the Southeast, and you can get it for the most part in the Midwest. But there are some places you'll find, even in the Midwest, that don't serve sweet tea. They will serve tea, iced tea, with sweetener, and you have to add the sugar.
I don't like tea anyway. Ugh, traitor. Quick question. What the fuck is that flag on your wall? I never even seen a country with that flag so colorful. Well, it's not a country's flag. It's the Progress Pride flag. The Peace Pride flag. I don't remember what it's called, man, but it's a pride flag. It's a queer pride flag. I don't remember the specific name of that exact permutation, but I like it. I like the colors of it and everything. How many genders are there? Well, gender is a social construct that is limited only by our minds. So there are as many as you want there to be, or as few as you want there to be. I believe that there are zero, that it's all something that we have artificially imposed upon ourselves, but not necessarily something that we can choose to free ourselves from. I think we could, perhaps over generations, but I think it would require an active effort distributed amongst a lot of society. We're nowhere near there yet. Good on you, girl, for streaming with all the degens on YT/short/live.
Well, I figured out a long time ago that if people are just gonna like, how do I put this most elegantly? People are sometimes gonna hate. if people hate in a way that's obsessive enough, you can build a career on that. Especially if some people find the hate to be so derisive and so off-putting that they feel the need to be like, hey, you know what? I may agree with that person more on politics, but they are being a total weirdo, and I'm totally willing to have a conversation with you, and I am totally willing to fill that role, and I'm one of a million people who have filled that role throughout history. One of a million people that has been openly and unabashedly myself for views and likes. Do you do OnlyFans? No. Although I have thought about it. Why are you an anarchist and how do you justify it? Well, I'm an anarchist in the long term. I think things could eventually conceive of a society that doesn't require us to be ruled over by hierarchical forms of governance. Things like the division of labor that exists in a modern workplace with bosses and supervisors and middle managers and CEOs and that kind of thing. Or the current governmental structure that requires a president and votes being through Congress people and shit like that. I think that human beings could come up with some sort of anarchistic, direct democracy that is, I don't know, maybe it's AI powered, you know? But I genuinely believe that human beings are capable of doing whatever we set our minds to. And I also see a tendency in the human animal to be kind of annoyed by this trend towards authoritarianism that exists in certain societies. And so I genuinely believe that on a long enough timescale, we will overthrow the bourgeoisie. We will take power back from the capitalist and the factory owner. We will eventually establish a government that doesn't require us to fight over one another, to fight with one another, to fight each other for our oil, to fight each other for our wheat and our fresh water. I think that we could be better than the primitive apes that we've allowed ourselves to continue being. And then what? I don't know. I guess that would be for the far future society to decide. What, am I supposed to figure out the entire path of humanity until the natural heat death of the universe? Is that what you're saying? On a long enough timescale, can we free Dirklo? What? I think a sort of mixed capitalism socialism could be the most healthy economic system. I think, yeah, maybe something like that. I've heard the argument that really you just need to decommodify necessities, and luxuries and things like that can still be based on a marketplace system. And if you put people in that position, then they're going to advocate for their labor in better and more powerful ways, and so they'll be better able to access some of those luxuries. As long as their human needs are met and nationalized and taken care of out of a common fund that everyone, including the corporations, is contributing to, then their ability to participate in that consumer economy is so much greater. And so there's kind of an argument to be made that it could be better for everybody if some of these fucking rich people would just let go of the idea that real estate is going to be something that they can forever make a bunch of money on. Because that's why housing is such a fucking problem in America. Because in the minds of rich people in America, housing is not something that human beings need or they'll fucking die of exposure. In the minds of rich people in America, housing is a commodity to be bought, sold, traded, made money off of, and ignored, neglected until needed. It's not a question you'd ask in person. No, it is not. Asking if you have an OnlyFans is something you only ask random girls online, and it's literally something that is only taken as not weird online. Like, if somebody asked me that in real life, I would be it would have to be a pretty wild situation for me to not be kind of creeped out by that. Like, maybe if we had been building up an association and it been kind of flirty, maybe that'd be one thing. But if somebody just walked up to me after staring at me from across the room and asked that, I would be pretty fucking creeped out. Now, maybe if I had an OnlyFans, I would play it off and I'd still give it to them. But I guarantee you that would be a creepy fucking, it would be a highlight of the night in terms of creepiness. It's seen differently online, but I don't necessarily know that it should be. You know, it does kind of bother me that people will come in here and ask questions that they would never ask if they were sitting right next to me at a bus stop or something like that. It's kind of disconcerting and off-putting sometimes, but it is what it is. You know, you can't let it get under your skin, but it is worth talking about, at least in that way.
I don't believe you're a girl. Does that make me rude? Yeah, but whatever. You can hang out. Lots of people in here are rude. Doesn't science prove there are only two genders, XX or female, XY for male? Well, that would be sex, number one. And number two, there are like chromosomal defects and things like that that can make someone have like XXY chromosomes or XYY. There are all sorts of different like sexual makeups that come along with like intersex conditions and shit. There are women that are born with MRKH, and so their vagina doesn't connect to their uterus. Sometimes they don't even have a uterus. Sometimes they're missing an ovary. Like they're born with a genital defect that basically makes them not just infertile, but usually completely incapable of having sex. They have to have reconstructive surgery if that ability is to be opened up to them, you know? So it's like, how do you define woman as anything other than that which someone perceives to be a woman on the basis of seeing them? Someone is calling me, so give me 1 second. Sorry. My partner's up during the night. And what are you fucking talking about? I get over my phobia of trans people. And OnlyFans helps with that. I mean, honestly, I hate to say this because whatever. I don't speak for the entire trans community. I don't speak for anybody but myself. But let me say this much. Yes, someone watching trans porn and admitting that they watch trans porn is actually a critical part of someone getting over their transphobia. Yes. As weird as it is in this context, like Chains, you probably shouldn't do that to every trans person you meet. It's not cool. There's plenty of trans OnlyFans that you can find by looking through OnlyFans, right? You don't have to ask random trans YouTubers that because you might get a way worse reaction than what you got here, you know? But it is a critical part of someone getting over their transphobia to admit that they watch trans porn. Like, yeah, you don't have to admit it to your fucking parents or whatever, but just admitting to the bros or whatever, just even if it's in an online chat space and being like, yeah, man, I'm kind of attracted to trans people. Yes, for some people, that is a fundamental part of them getting over their fucking phobia of trans people. Because frankly, for a lot of fucking homophobes, it's about them being attracted to people of their own fucking sex or gender. And for a lot of transphobes, it's usually down to either them feeling like they are themselves trans and are not allowed to express that, or they're attracted to trans people and they don't feel like they're allowed to engage with that or explore that in any way. So it is something you have to consider, you know? Oh, they're just anomalies resulting in a human with a mutation in their sex cells. Science says that the sex of a human determines if it is male or female from birth. Science also says that the sex of a human is more complicated than male and female. Sorry, that's what science says. The fact that it happens means that it happens. The fact that it happens means that it is not as simple as you are making it out to be. You have determined that you are dead set on this narrative. And you know what? It's honestly sad. You are more concerned with the fact that I'm trans than you are about the fact that your wages have been stagnant for 30 years. You're more concerned with the fact that I'm trans than the fact that healthcare fucks people over to the tunes of millions of dollars in this country every single year. You're more concerned with me being trans than the fact that you've probably got family members who will be paying off their student loans for the rest of their fucking lives. You're more concerned about me being trans than you are about your hours being cut or you being expected to work a bunch of overtime that's underpaid or overtaxed. You'll never get over something like that on the internet. You need to have a real honest conversation with someone, and then maybe it'll help change your outlook on life. I mean, I do think that part of that does. I think that part of that does happen online, but it can't all happen online. Yes, you need to find queer people in your real life to have an actual conversation with. That is way more fundamental to getting over whatever bigotries you might have towards queer people than any other single piece of advice I can give you. Why have people started becoming trans at such a rapid rate lately? Because the rate of acceptance has gone way up. Because it's acceptable to be trans now in a way that it hasn't been throughout, like, Western culture's last 100 years, or at the very least American culture. Like, it has not been very acceptable to be trans in America for a very, like, it's pretty recent, right? It's within the last 5 or 6 years, really, that people have started to feel like, okay, I can finally come out, you know? So that's way more responsible for it than anything else. It's just the fact that people are more accepting of it now. Like, people are more accepting of trans people than at any other time in history. And so way more of us are, like, coming out of the closet and being like, yeah, okay, well, we can now be honest with who we are. So why wouldn't we be, you know? It's because it's more accepted than it was 20 years ago. That's progress. Exactly. It's trans Peter Griffin. You found me. Hey, Lois. Why do people have boobs? Acceptable is a strong word. Trans is still such a small percentage of the population, and clearly it's still not much more accepted. And hi, Phoebe, long time, been busy with EMT stuff. What's up, Celtic Den? Yeah, I don't know about that. I think that the rate of acceptance is kind of just demonstrated by the fact that, like, a trans person hasn't been lynched in a pretty long time, you know? I think the acceptance is, in my opinion, a lot higher than it was, say, 100 years ago. Now, the thing about queer acceptance is that it kind of comes and goes in waves, right? Because there was also a broad swath of acceptance that happened back in the 70s, but certain people kind of moved on from it, didn't care, got their minds changed later, whatever. And then there was kind of a resurgence of homophobia in the 80s. And then there was a resurgence of like pro-gay activism in the 90s. And then there was kind of a resurgence of homophobia in the early 2000s. And then there was kind of a resurgence of pro-gay activism in like the later 2000s. And then there was a pushback against it. And we're still living through that, you know? We're still living through that. And well, no, actually, we aren't still living through the first one, because what happened was it went back the other way, and then that was when kind of the anti-SJW era happened and everything. That pretty much ended in 2020, because that created this whole new set of political divides and everything. And then, right, things from that point began to gradually shift the other way, and now we're at the point where things swung wildly back, you know, towards acceptance again, and it was like that for 2 or 3 years, and then over the last year and a half, 2 years, things have began to swing the other way, and we'll probably be in this swing for another 2 or 3 years. You know, it's just how the fucking it's how the issue goes in America. It goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and we've been seesawing on it since the fucking 70s. And I don't care if it's 99% of people. The fact that it happens means that it happens. The fact that it happens means it is not as fucking simple as you make it out to be. Oh my god. Spamming dumbass. How do you feel about someone like Shane Gillis? He clearly does not have a problem with gay people, but he definitely brought back the trend of making fun of gay people and calling things gay. I don't really know much about Shane Gillis. Like, maybe I should. I don't know. Is it incumbent on a queer activist to know about people who were responsible for some of the transphobia in certain movements? I don't really know. But I unfortunately can't provide any commentary on that specific figure because I don't know anything about him. Do I live in New York City? No, I actually live in Mississippi, if you can believe it. Nope, I just live right next to a train track, but good guess. The camera's probably vibrating just a little bit because I can feel the ground vibrating. Have you been happier since you have identified as trans? Oh yeah, 100%. Way happier, way more confident, way happier, way better off than I was as, like, cosplaying as a guy. Way better off. I wouldn't go back if you paid me. I should read your message? Well, I will try. I'll try and find it. I do love you, though, and God loves you, too. I do care about trans matters, though, because I care about the truth and I care about the health of those around me. Transgenderism is not a healthy state. I mean, you say that, but the DSM-5, the primary manual used for, like, the identification of psychological disorders, identifies gender dysphoria as a specific condition and identifies gender transition as the recommended treatment. So that's one source. Then you've got the Mayo Clinic, which advocates the exact same thing. Literally, exact same thing. So, like, let me ask you this. Why would I take the word of Edward over the word of the Mayo Clinic? Do you see where we're kind of running into an impasse here? To be honest, most people have an ick towards trans. Most trans I know are good people by heart, but do get defensive as long as you're happy, you know. Well, that's the fucking thing. It's like they get defensive because a lot of people are needlessly hateful towards us because it's become fun as a fucking political thing. And yeah, I get that some people are icked out by trans people, but you know what? Like, there are all kinds of people that we are icked out by that we shouldn't be, you know? I don't know. I don't think the ick is a great way to respond to people. And I don't think that we should ever encourage it in terms of responding to people. Like, there are very few people that I think genuinely deserve the ick response out of the common person. And part of what my project is here, and if there's anything I'm trying to do here, you know, at all, I think part of the project is to get people to understand that there is more to the trans movement than just defensive ass bitches. Because yeah, a lot of trans people get defensive. I get defensive sometimes when somebody comes at me super sideways, you know? But choosing not to get that way can give you some sway in an argument that you wouldn't have otherwise had. It's just that when you feel like just your basic right to fucking dress how you want is under constant assault from people who sometimes use very violent rhetoric towards you, you can kind of understand why some of these people get so defensive, right? In my opinion, I can understand why they get defensive, even if I don't choose to personally take that tact, you know? Hey, I'll have you know that Edward is the world's most leading Facebook and 4chan researcher. Yeah, exactly. Then why are suicide rates so high? Not trying to have a gotcha moment, I'm just trying to understand your logic. Trans suicide rates are highest amongst people who were, discriminated against by their family, basically, and by their peer group. Like, that is the fucking thing that drives fucking trans suicide rates up so high. It's lack of acceptance from their community. It's lack of acceptance from their family and friend group. It's lack of acceptance amongst their peer group broadly. That's what drives the fucking suicide rate so high. So you're asking, why does this group of people that we've totally normalized acting rude towards, being disgusted by, making fun of, why do they kill themselves with such high numbers? Well, there you go. I mean, to me, the
the question should be answerable in its asking.
Meister friend streaming on Twitch. I'll catch you next time. Catch you next time, Celtic Den.
True, I know. It's the sad fucking truth of it.
What about when the trans community comes after their own? Why do I see cases on the internet of trans people attacking their own? Makes me sad to be.
Well, I think it's because, like, we're under such intense pressure, right? Like, trans people fighting with each other. I mean, number one, people are going to fight with each other, and trans people tend to hang out with other trans people. So that's probably part of it. It's just like, why are there so many pictures of, like, why are there so many videos of black people fighting with each other? You know, like, why are there so many pictures of Mexicans fighting with each other? Well, it's because black people tend to be friends with and hang out with black people, and Mexicans tend to be friends with and hang out with Mexicans, and white people tend to be friends with and hang out with white people. Not universally, obviously. I've been a part of a shit ton of super diverse friend groups, but in none of them was I, like, the only white person, you know? And I have to imagine, based on just, like, being a human adult and, like, going and socializing, and based on the friend groups that I see, I don't, like, I see that rule being violated maybe 10% of the time, which means it's not really a rule, so to speak, I guess. That's probably strong language, right? But it's one of those things that I don't think carries as much meaning as people would append to it, you know? It's just social science. It's like, well, because, like, you know, birds of a feather and shit. Like, if people have shit in common from growing up in the same neighborhood, and, like, a lot of both of the communities that I brought up come from, like, a lot of them have been kind of, like, concentrated into specific areas. So it's like, if a group of people that are all the same race, that live in the same neighborhood, grow up together and are hanging out and shit, you know, if they start to have a fight, if somebody, like, in the group says something that miffs somebody else in that group and they start fucking going at each other, or if like, somebody encounters somebody from the town that they grew up in, it's like the same shit that happens in fucking every community. That's what I'm trying to say, you know? It happens in the trailer park, it happens among trans people, it happens among black people, it happens among gay people, it happens among every fucking group of people. Like, any grouping you want to make of human beings that causes them to congregate together in any way is going to have that fucking thing. So that's one thing you have to consider. But another thing is that trans people are under a unique kind of pressure when it comes to the constant onslaught and assault against our identities, when it comes to the national news media and national level politicians and shit. It's kind of like an all-around attack that's been going on for like a year and a half, 2 years now. And I think that has been withering in its effects for some people. I'm going to be real with you, gaming edits. I don't want to have this argument. I've argued with enough people about the nature of my existence and whether or not I have the right to wear what I want to wear and express myself how I want to express myself and call myself a woman if I want to. I've had enough of those arguments to last me a fucking lifetime. I don't feel up to it, and if you keep commenting about it, I'm just going to ban you. Not because I'm not interested in the topic broadly, because I'm fine having that argument on another night, but it's like it's fucking like 2 in the morning where I'm at. Can we just shove it for another night, please? I don't want to have this argument again for the umpteenth motherfucking time at 2 in the morning with some rando in my chat. Please spare me. Talking to both of you, honestly, and I'm not a he,
That's another thing. Like, we can have this conversation, but I'm not going to go around calling you a she, because your name is William. My name is Phoebe. You can call me she. Thanks. Order 66, by the way, now that I've said that, Order 66 on anybody who misgenders me, that'll be a really great way to get rid of these people who want to have this conversation all fucking night. Because I can think of about a million things in the world more worth arguing about than this. Order 66, I stole it from fucking Paulsego, bro. Gotta forgive me. He said it and explained it, and I, participated in a number of Order 66s on the Paulsego channel and the Poltergeist channel, and I had to fucking do it to him, I had to institute it as a rule over here too. I wasn't trying to argue. I wasn't saying either of you guys were, honestly. I was just saying, honestly, the one person was, honestly, trying to argue. But, that's just the thing. I don't want, it ultimately might not be an argument for you, but for me it is. For you, you're just talking about, the deeper implications of this, scientific anomaly. And for me, I'm defending my right to dress how I want and talk how I want and behave myself how I want, as long as it doesn't hurt nobody else, right? For you, it's an academic topic. For me, it's my life. Can you see why it might be fucking tiring, exhausting even, to argue about that shit day after day after day after day? I'm telling you, come back tomorrow, midday sometime probably. Probably not midday. It'll probably be sometime in the evening. But come back tomorrow. I do a stream almost every day. You will be able to make the same argument tomorrow at a time when I'm not fucking about to fall asleep. At a time where I don't feel... Honestly, I feel way more like grabbing my guitar and playing you guys some music than I do arguing about this stupid fucking issue, which to my mind is settled, and in you guys' mind is settled. That's the fucked up thing about it is, I bet if we fucking went down all the issues... William and gaming edits, I bet we would find a lot of shit that we probably agree on, right? We would probably find a lot of things that we don't see that far from eye to eye on, but you guys are just endlessly interested in this trans topic because it's the most fascinating thing in the world to you. And the fucking sad thing about it all is that neither of us are ever going to have our minds changed. You are not going to be the force that convinces me to detransition, okay? You are not going to be the fucking force that convinces me I'm not trans and neither is nobody else. If I ever come to that conclusion, it will be from no help from you. Trust me. I'm not trying to be demeaning. I'm just saying, that sort of change doesn't come from belligerent idiots on the internet. It comes from, a deeper dialogue than that. Right? Hi, vey. Unless this is something that affects you IRL, don't take it to heart. As someone who has long hair, paints my nails, wears makeup to work, I've been called so much online. Oh, I'm sure. But yeah, that's the thing is I content farm these people, Tyson. That's why I argue with these people. And that's why I'm asking these folks in the way that I am to please find something else to argue with me about. Because there are a lot of things that I consider way more important than my personal gender journey, right? As cringe as that sounds, I'm perfectly fine talking about it sometimes, but I just feel like it's really late, and we've been arguing about this, and ultimately it's one of those things that when I've argued with somebody for a certain amount of time, or when I've discussed things with somebody for a certain amount of time, whatever, I get to a point where I realize this person is entrenched in their beliefs. And what that means is that I'm not going to be... They're in the same position that I am, right? I'm entrenched in my belief too. And maybe someday I will be untrenched from that belief, but right now I am as entrenched in my belief that I am validly trans as anything I could be, as anything else I could believe in. It's one of the few things I feel like I know with certainty, right? And they also feel the same way about their perceptions of gender. That's the perception I get from having talked to William and gaming edits, is that they are 100% certain that their exact perception is the way things are, and that I'm the one that's the idiot in the wrong, that I've been misled,
And it's almost like, to me, it's like arguing with a presuppositional apologeticist, which is a Christian that literally makes every fucking one of their arguments predicated upon the belief, the presupposition that everyone believes in God, and that some people just deny it, that some people just lie about it, or bullshit their way through it. And it's the most fucking frustrating denomination of Christians to talk to, by the way. Not that it's a distinct denomination. It's a belief that's held by certain denominations. Mainly Calvinists and outgrowths from Calvinism. And it's a fucking annoying fucking thing to encounter. But it feels like the same way whenever I engage in one of these conversations. All right. What should we discuss instead then? Well, there's been a lot going on in the news lately. I mean, I genuinely think regime change is coming to Iran. The Shah's son, just like the other day, was basically saying, I am willing to come and take over a transitional government in Iran. I am willing to lead my people to freedom, or whatever. And it's not just him either that's positioning him for that position. It's also the Munich Convergence Summit, the Munich Security Conference, and a whole bunch of other secretive little meetings between powerful people in positions of Iranian resistance and government-supported Iranian resistance. So I'm pretty fucking sure regime change is coming to Iran, even if Trump is currently claiming that there's a ceasefire on. I don't believe that shit for a second. I think that ceasefire is about as powerful as the paper it was written on, or the Twitter post it was made in. Why did we bomb Iran to begin with, in your opinion? Because Israel had bombed Iran, and we had to save face, because Iran bombed a couple of our bases. Or no, they didn't bomb a couple of our bases. Or no, did they? I'm having trouble remembering. I'm thinking that they struck a couple of our bases in Afghanistan, but that might have been an earlier conflict. Basically, I don't think it had anything to do with nuclear material, I'll tell you that much. I don't think it had anything to do with nuclear material, because 2 weeks ago, Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, was saying Iran was nowhere near getting a nuke. Iran was years away from getting a nuke, according to the national intelligence community, just a few short weeks ago. But for some reason, under pressure from the White House, they're now all going around saying that Iran was mere weeks away from it. That doesn't make any sense. That sort of change doesn't happen within the space of a couple weeks. So what has happened is that a narrative has been adopted wherein Iran is just they're just this side of getting nukes, and we got to stop them. We got to get them there before they get us here. It's literally the same fucking rhetoric from Iraq and Afghanistan replayed. And I think that we bombed Iran to support Israel and to possibly begin the stages of this regime change that is coming. I think that we bombed Iran to kind of test the waters, honestly, to see if the American people would support even a little bit of this sort of war making, to see if we would stand by and let the war making just openly happen. Because I think that if there hadn't been any anti-war protests, I think if there hadn't been a bunch of fucking people on YouTube like me and a bunch of other people saying that the Shah of Iran was about to be reinstalled in Iran, I think if there hadn't been a bunch of people like that and a bunch of people out there protesting and shit, I think that the government would have continued to participate in this war against Iran until Iran's leader, the Ayatollah, had been deposed and a new government had been installed with Reza Pahlavi as the head of it. But now I think Trump and his cronies and Israel understand that they're going to have to do something a little more covert. Israel's going to have to bring out Mossad for this one. What do you think about Trump bombing Iran? Well, from my understanding, there's kind of a misunderstanding going on right now, because just a few days ago, the national intelligence community once again was contradicting Trump's narrative. Trump has been saying that we completely took their nuclear capabilities down. We set their project back here. And the intelligence community was coming out saying, no, we maybe set it back a few months. Maybe. And Now, after intense pressure from the White House, the national defense community is now, the national intelligence community is now being like, God, no, actually, you know what? Yeah, we fucked him up, man. Yeah, we fucked him up. Tell me if that's legitimate. Tell me if that's real. Or tell me if that's just what Trump wants you to think about the situation.
Iran doesn't have nukes, nor have they ever been near producing one. That's been a narrative for over 20 years.
Yeah, literally. Iran has been 5 fucking minutes away from building nuclear warheads since the 90s, bro. Since the early 90s. People have been going around claiming that Iran is just this side, like I said, of having nukes. When the fucking fact of it is, Iran is nowhere fucking close to having nukes. And if you listen to the Ayatollah, his super uber religious ass claims to not even believe in the use of nukes unless, according to an Iranian president from way back when, I don't remember what his name was, but there is this quote that floats around about how we would build nukes if we were cornered like a cat. So if anything, I think that it's a fucked up situation now where you almost have to hope for regime change, because if you take that quote at their word, if you take them at their word that they are following that fatwa that the Ayatollah issued back in the late 90s, right? If you take it that they are being serious about that, but that they are also serious about what their president said back in the early 2000s about how, well, we'll build one if we're cornered like a cat, you almost have to hope for regime change, because otherwise that means they're going to fucking actually start trying to build a fucking warhead now, because we're actually bombing their shit. We're actually threatening them now. Why are we pushing them into this position unless we want to do regime change? Because that's our only fucking option. So I'm telling you, this shit is not over. The state media in America that's telling you that this shit is over is so short-sighted and so fucking pussyfooted. They're so pussy about this because they don't want to come out and tell you this shit. They don't want to come out and tell you that this is how shit's going to go down. I don't have any problem telling you that. Because there are no strings to hold me back. Remember they told us there were weapons of mass destructions. Yup. It's literally WMDs all over again. 25 years ago is repeating itself. 110%. Yup. Time is a flat circle. Time is a fat circle. It'll never be over as long as Israel exists. Simple as that. They don't want it to exist, and we do. Yeah, I mean, that's the fucked up thing. It's like, that's why I said you almost have to hope for regime change. There are two options that can happen now that that's why I kept saying in the last few streams, I know you're new here, Tyson, at least I'm pretty sure you are, but I've been saying in the last few streams, you can go back and watch them, things have been set in motion now which cannot be undone. It's a quote from The Lord of the Rings, and it's so fucking important right now. Things have been set in motion which cannot be undone. You now have to either hope that the regime change happens and that we get the Ayatollah out before they are able to build a nuke, and that whatever puppet we install gets well rid of any of that fucking planning, right? Or you have to hope that we stop supporting Israel and we just allow Iran to invade Israel and take them over. Because eventually, that's the fucking thing. Iran is way the fuck bigger than Israel. Iran is way the fuck bigger than Israel. Iran has way more resources than Israel does. Iran can hold on. Iran can hold on. Israel can't. And if the United States stops supporting Israel, eventually Israel will run out of missiles. They will run out of modifications for their fancy M1s that we give them. Eventually they will run out. And when they do, Iran will invade them. So you have to either hope for regime change so that their fucking, old school threat about nuclear war doesn't come true, or you have to hope that we completely stop supporting Israel and that the people of Israel end up getting fucking overrun and probably slaughtered to the man. And that's fucking not a good choice either. Regardless of the actions of the state of Israel, I don't think that I don't believe that the Iranians are right for thinking death to Israel. I don't think the Iranians are right for that. I think that it's an abominable position. But I also cannot help but I cannot help but admit that Israel has not painted itself into a kind corner with how it's behaved with its neighbors. And they are eventually going to reap the rewards of that. And it's sad. And the people that will suffer in that conflict are the Iranian and Israeli people, who will die by the fucking truckload. Either to satisfy the endless bloodlust of fundamentalist Islam, or to satisfy the endless bloodlust of American imperialism. This war is fucked. Good night. Maybe discuss tomorrow. Who knows? I don't believe in time necessarily. It's a Gregorian fabrication, but I won't deny it's handy. Oh, I love you, Daisy. Yeah, it is a Gregorian fabrication, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, there is no point in believing in strict senses of time other than its usefulness for maintaining human society, right? Like, it's useful to understand time so that you know what time to get to a doctor's appointment, and you know, like, how that type of thing works, you know? But in terms of thinking about it, like, you've got to spend this time wisely, or you have to do this or that, the other thing, to satisfy the requirements of some ethereal requirements of time god or whatever. That shit's just, that's all shit that we put on the experience of time. Ultimately, time is just the natural, the time is just human beings' perception of naturally repeating processes. Literally. Our linear perception of naturally repeating processes, which are not actually happening in a linear fashion. They're happening in an open-ended fashion. The path of evolution, after all, does not take one line, does it? The path of evolution branches. The path of evolution mutates. The path of evolution goes this way and that way and up and down and all around. It goes through the water. It goes through the land. It goes through the trees. It goes through the shrubs. Geological evolution is the same way. What's up, Phoebe? The coming Paul debate going to be scheduled on your channel? Yes, I will schedule it. I'll probably get on my computer tomorrow evening or tomorrow morning, whatever, and set it up on there. And yeah, it's going to be over here. And, you know, anybody that wants to donate, anybody that wants to donate, I'll have super chats open. And anybody that wants to join the membership, hey, as soon as we get enough memberships, we'll start doing members only chats. And that'll be pretty dope. And I might end up pimping those at some point. But, and also, if you join my membership, by the way, you get access to all of my, quote, what do I want to call them? My low-key streams. Streams that didn't get as big as some of the other ones do, right? Streams that don't hover around 100 people for, you know, the first hour and a half or so, and then dip down to like 50 or 40, and, you know, like streams that only ended up getting like 5,000 views or less. All of those are members only, because, you know, I like to present the best of the best to the public-facing people, and I think that there's a lot of quality content in those hidden stream. No, they're not hidden, but in those members-only streams, I think there's a lot of quality content that doesn't necessarily appeal to the average viewer, but would appeal to somebody who is interested in my point of view and interested in this stream's format, right? Somebody that has a lot of driving to do or something like that and just needs something to listen to in the background. These streams are great for that. And we've got a ton of them that are really chill, low-key, and cool and fun to listen to, almost like ASMR, that are in the included as part of your membership. So, with all that self-pimping out of the way, who you got for Lilia? I don't know who those people are. I'm sorry. You struck a chord because I am convinced we're all experiencing time at vastly different rates. Oh, we do. That's the thing. Time is entirely a perceptual thing. Time is not based on anything real. Time is based on your perceptions about events that happen in a linear fashion. And so, because it's all based on perception
perception altering drugs can affect the way you perceive time. Your raising affects the way you perceive time. The place that you live, the place that you grow up, honestly, affects the way you see time immensely. A lot of people don't realize that, but if you grew up in a place, like, for example, I grew up in the Deep South. For me, time is a fucking construct, and it's very easy to tell you why. Because tell a person you're going to be there at 2 in the South, what you actually mean is you're going to be there at 2:45. Time does not exist in a society that can function like that. You know? Time is a guideline down here. And that's all you need to know that time is not some ethereally important thing that you have to fucking adhere to directly. There are very few fucking, I guess, the super professional fucking factories and shit like that are probably pretty rigid about that kind of thing. In fact, I know they are, but a lot of other businesses just are not. And really, the Southern tendency, especially amongst friends and people that are just doing contract work and that kind of thing, is yeah, I'll show up there right around 8 a.m. or something like that. And then they get over there at 9:30 and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I had an emergency call, Does anyone know that one episode from Regular Show where they have to fight the clock? Yeah, no, I don't. Gonna be a banger fight, yo. I got 300 on whoever you say. They clearly are gonna win. Nice. But yeah, we all perceive time at different rates. We all perceive time in different ways. We all assign different levels of importance to the passage of time. Sometimes certain people assign different levels of importance to different periods of time in their own life, right? Okay, so I got you. Lilia is all power, but he's moving up 15 pounds to fight a guy who's really good at wrestling, but also has power himself. It's for the belt now. The Duck Jones bounced at a big fight. Okay, well, I'm going with Lilia because I like a good underdog story. Yeah. You were supposed to be done with that report 4 hours ago. Time is a social construct, literally. Say that to your boss, No, I'm kidding. Don't say that to your boss. You'll get fired. But it is a fucking social construct. It's something that we all agree has meaning and weight, but that has no meaning and weight for anything outside of a human being. All animals care about is it the fucking, are the conditions right for what I need to do? No? Okay, I'm going to sleep. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they don't have a more complex inner life than that, because I know that they do. I'm just saying that when it comes to the matter of time, we have never demonstrated any evidence, and no animal that has sentience has ever demonstrated any evidence that they give a motherfuck about time. Like a fox doesn't check his watch before he goes to bed. He just kind of goes to bed when he's tired. A squirrel doesn't check her fucking grandfather clock before she goes out to gather acorns. She just does it on a nice day, Time helped my titties grow? Yeah, time has all kinds of crazy effects, doesn't it? Whoever has better combat intelligence? I mean, yeah, who would have better combat intelligence, though, if the United States decided to withdraw from Israel? That's why I'm saying that this is like a conflict with no easy out at this point. I genuinely think that things have been set in motion now which cannot be undone, and I don't know what the answer is. Morally. I genuinely don't know what the answer is. I haven't been able to puzzle that out yet. But I can tell you, I would rather the United States not be complicit in the bloodshed that's about to occur. But we're going to be at this point. We are complicit at this point in whatever bloodshed occurs between those two countries. I mean, we always were, honestly, complicit for that, but now our complicity is renewed. Oliveira has more combat intelligence. It's a toss-up, TBH. Oh, I thought we were talking about Iran and Israel, bro. I'm fucking retarded. I don't know, dude. I don't fucking know. Like I said, I'm just going for the underdog. I don't even know nothing about this fight. I'm just going with the underdog. A cat needs no clock. It eats, go to bed, runs around the house at 3 a.m., and then sleeps some more.
And it doesn't even know that it's 3 a.m. when it's running around at 3 a.m. For all it gives a fuck, it could be 10 p.m. For all it gives a fuck, it could be 3 fucking in the afternoon. It doesn't give a shit. It's Zoomian. And it just happens to be 3 a.m. The humans care that it's 3 a.m. To the cat, it's Zoomy time. To the cat, it's not 3 a.m., it's Zoomy time.
Ice cream after 2 a.m. hits different.
At almost everything, I will be completely honest with you, Rose. I went through a period of my life where I was a fucking degenerate, bro. Oh, man. Eating fucking frozen pizzas at 2:30 in the morning, stoned out of my fucking gourd, watching a movie. And I guess I'm not doing much better sitting here streaming stoned out of my gourd, but hey, at least in theory, these make money, you know? No, but seriously, I would get so fucking high with my old crew of friends, and, we'd have dinner, whatever that meant, but, right around like 2:30, dude, we'd fucking toke up again towards the end of the movie after we just put some music on, and, now it's time for a fucking frozen pizza, because by gum, it's fucking frozen pizza time. Or, dude, ultimate toast was our fucking thing. Me and my one of my ex-best friends, guy named Colin. I guess that name is common enough. I've said it on stream so many times, feels stupid to not. But me and this friend had this creation that we made one night because we realized we had a toaster and we had bread and we were super fucking high. And I was a baby stoner at this time, okay? I was a baby stoner, not super accustomed to smoking and shit. I'd really only gotten super high a handful of times in my life at that point, but I was super fucking high. And we remembered, we were trying to think of anything we could eat as a snack, and I was like, oh, toast. And Colin was like, oh, toast. And so we both got up, and we fucking did a little dance into the kitchen that we somehow synchronized instantly with no conversation. Just instantly, little dance into the kitchen. And we got we looked like a couple of Keebler elves, dude. I swear to God. We got the fucking toaster out and we set it down. And then we got the fucking bread out and we set it down and we laid it out, looked all pretty. And then we started cooking the fucking toast and making it perfect. And dude, we made ultimate toast, which was toast on setting 4.5. Butter. A good amount. Jelly, of course, grape jelly, cinnamon sugar. Do you have diabetes yet? You will not believe this last ingredient. Maple syrup, little drizzle. And then you eat that shit. And that shit is like 2,000 calories on a piece of toast, but that shit's delicious. And that's ultimate toast. And that was my first stoned food creation. And possibly my most ignoble, too. No, it wasn't syrup, bro. It was honey. It was honey we drizzled on that shit. No. Humans are weird. You ever be trying to do something and you get legit angry that the laws of physics aren't suspending themselves simply for your convenience? Oh, all the time. All the fucking time. God damn it, this world doesn't bend to my will. It's inconvenient as hell. It really is, though. But yeah, dude, there's just something about food after fucking 2:30 in the morning that hits way different, and it is just delicious and wonderful. Bro, there's a restaurant that used to exist in Chillicothe, Missouri that I miss like a motherfucker. I miss so intensely. Okay? It was called Mad Toppers. Mad Toppers. Amazing fucking pizza restaurant in Chillicothe. Now, and it's in its latter years, apparently, like in its last few months, wasn't going very good, apparently. But because like the last time we ate there, it wasn't very impressive. I remember that. Or no, it wasn't like, no, we didn't have a bad time there. It was one of our friends that went there and had a bad time. And they said that the quality had went way down because they'd been with us before, but they went with a different group of friends and they were like, yeah. Anyway, restaurant called Mad Toppers. It was built in a downtown area in Chillicothe, Missouri, and it was built into a building that had used to be a church, I guess. And so it had those big fucking ceilings, those like giant ceilings that go all the way up to the roof, you know? Like there was no apartment or anything like that as far as I could tell at the top of it. Or maybe there was like a single floor of apartments at the very top. It was hard to tell, legitimately. But super high vaulted ceiling, I guess you could call it. But it was flat. It just had all the different archways and decorations and shit up. And it was basically a pizzeria / bar. Like there was a bar section that was decorated like a bar, lit like a bar, and everything, you know, and the music kind of blasted out from there, but they had speakers all around and everything. But it was weird because they managed to make the bar area very, very distinct from the areas where you could just sit and chill, and you could get a drink. You were allowed to order a drink if that's what you wanted, but you didn't have to be 21 just to sit in the booths or the tables. And so we would go there, and dude, they had some of the best restaurant pizza I've ever had, probably, honestly. They had some of the best restaurant pizza I've ever had. They had amazing fucking fried raviolis with the little, like, the marinara sauce and shit. Oh, they had the best fat bitch food this side of the Mississippi. Or that side of the Mississippi.
Toasted PB&J, specifically with strawberry jam and banana, is my favorite sandwich. Like, I didn't even fuck with PB&J before I knew you could eat them like that. What? Dude, that is way too much addition to a PB&J. But then again, I am the creator of Ultimate Toast, so I guess I can't actually judge that at all. Okay, what normally served hot food do you think is better cold? So far, I have pizza and pasta. If you got some legit pizza, I want that hot, but if it's delivery or something, I will wolf it down cold. Okay, so this is a difficult question for me because there are a lot of questions, like there are a lot of these foods that honestly, I genuinely believe their best fucking presentation is fresh. Like that's the best way to have them. But as far as things that are good cold, I think, depending on the kind of pizza, cold pizza is definitely one. Now, I do think that there are some pizzas, even high-priced ones, that don't refrigerate well, but a lot of them can be rescued just by throwing them in the oven again, which I know defeats the purpose of this hypothetical, but still. Some pasta I think is good cold. Other pastas I don't really like cold. Like, for example, any of the pastas that are built on like a creamy bechamel sauce or something like that, like a cheesy bechamel sauce. So like macaroni and cheese or fettuccine alfredo, anything like that is going to seize up and clump up into its little constituent parts and shit with refrigeration, like as it's allowed to cool, the like emulsion will break and shit. And that, like, maybe there's some way to prevent that with some kind of technique when you make it. I don't know. But that's what's happened to me every time I've made it, you know, is that eventually once it gets to a certain point of coolness, it's no longer a nice creamy consistency. Now it's like, you know, I don't know. There's probably something I need to do to it to prevent that. But, like, point is, a creamy, cheesy pasta, I don't think is very good refrigerated because they get, like, an inferior version of the pasta. But when it comes to tomato sauce-based pastas, I think that those are pretty universally great refrigerated. And honestly, I think a good pizza, I think that there are some pizzas that are just as good cold as they are hot. I just don't think it's every pizza. Some people act like every pizza is just better cold than it is hot. I'm like, no, there really are some pizzas that only redeem themselves if you have them hot. But then there are others that doesn't really matter. Like Little Caesars is banging whether it's fucking hot or cold. I don't give a fuck. Now, is Little Caesars actually banging? No, but I tell you what Little Caesars is. You got $8. You want pizza. Where are you going? Little Caesars. I wonder what cold Doritos are like. Doritos, but cold. I don't know. Good question, though. Speaking of cold, though, I think pretty much any protein that you can make into part of a taco or part of a burger also works cold, you know, like almost works like a cold cut. So like burgers, if you've got some in the fridge, work as a cold cut. You can just make a burger with a cold burger. You don't necessarily have to worry about heating that thing back up. You can if you want to. It's super easy to heat a burger back up, but you don't necessarily need to. And that's, I think, one of the cool things about them. Same with Sloppy Joes, which, by the way, Sloppy Joes are unhealthy, yes, but they don't have to be as unhealthy as they are when they're mass manufactured and sent to schools, okay? I make a homemade Sloppy Joe that would make y'all mamas fucking cry with fucking, like, amazement, okay? Pizzas with a lot of veggies definitely are better cold. There's just something about that cold that crisps up those veggies really nicely. And I think pizzas with a lot of meat are good cold too. I think it's like an abundance of toppings is required because I feel like otherwise you, I don't know about you, but I focus too much on the texture of the cold ass dough and the cheese, then and it's just a bad experience, right? With cold cheese pizza or even just cold pepperoni pizza. But with a cold meat lovers pizza, I'm way more able to focus on the like interaction and the interplay between the different ingredients. Anyway, I am going to go ahead and get off here. It has been a while, and we've had a good fucking talk, and I've talked about everything I wanted to talk about. So I will see you guys later. I thank you guys for hanging out. Make sure you check out the debate, 10 p.m. PST, this Saturday here on this channel. Be between Paulsego and Alchemist Soil. If you know who those people are, great. If you don't, go look them up. Figure it out. I love you guys. I will talk to you guys later.